Another cold one in the South, Brendan. I don't know.
I'm freezing.
Yeah, it's really strange. Cold weather. It's the winter, but in Florida, they're getting more snow than they are in Boston and New York. So,
Well, they're getting that in the Panhandle. Down here in the Central Florida, it's just 32 degrees and freezing, and everything doesn't work. And
well,
I'm frozen in this spot.
yeah, a lot of
actually.
stuff stops working when it gets cold. I mean, but
Yeah, I do.
got to
Rob, I
keep
stopped
rolling.
working.
I love the cold weather, but it freezes up the water, and a lot of our ducks go away and they leave us. So we just hope they'll come back. Hey,
Seems like the duck would be easier to hunt when it's cold because they're just.
I know
frozen.
they're moving more because they got to burn energy to stay warm.
See
Hey,
this
we
old,
gotta-
see this old school cup tonight right
Yeah.
here. Rob?
Yeah.
That's sports talk that we started when I was 21 years old. WMOP with Buddy Martin.
I tell you
And
what,
cast of characters right there.
Yeah,
That's like 40 years ago.
look, the old sports talk radio, I love it growing up in Memphis, listening in the late 70s to WWE, We Radio 1430 with Jeff Weinberger and George Lapidus. And just, I love it. And
You're
we
listening
do it,
to Sports Talk, WMOP.
Yeah, and we do it. We do it every day of the week, man. We got a great show today. Will Gunter checks in from Columbia, South Carolina. What's going on with Gamecocks? They were the toast of the conference last year, and this year they're 0-6, and they're a pretty good team. We'll talk about him, what's going on in the Carolinas. Frank Duffy checks in from North Georgia. Doug Dean might be able to jump on. He's at his deer camp over in the Black Belt of West Alabama. Got some guest hunting, so he's got the link if he can join us. We got Chuck Leavell, one of the most renowned, legendary musicians, the Allman Brothers, the Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd, just an all-around, generally cool guy.
All around, all my favorite bands. I've
Yeah.
seen all those bands live, by the way. I'm really excited for this.
Yeah, I am too, and I'm really looking forward to hearing him. He's a big sports fan too. Good friends with Nick Saban. Grew up in Birmingham. Big Alabama fan. Also, Ken Cap's going to check in with us, and he'll kind of give us a recap of this season, kind of how he saw it. And Brad Bellamy from LandersForwardMemphis.com will jump on the last part of the show. So take a picture of that QR code with your phone and settle in for the next hour of learning and having a lot of fun. Frank, how you doing this morning in the North Georgia mountains? I would think y'all got a lot of snow, but did you even get any?
We didn't get any. None. Zero.
Disrespect.
It pelted a little bit in Atlanta. We got a few little ice chips, but nothing, nothing like we did last week. Last week we were just inundated. But the pictures from my New Orleans are unreal. I mean, it like
Yeah.
Brendan said earlier, before we came on, the Gulf Coast was just dumped on, and New Orleans had like 9 to 10 inches of snow in the French Quarter where my apartment is. And we're going in today in a little while. Rhonda has her first carnival ball tomorrow night. And I had to reach out to my peeps and say, hey, boys and girls, are the roads clear? Or we're still having toboggan runs? I mean, what's going on? So, it was crazy. Some of the pictures I saw, people skiing down Bourbon Street and, some beautiful pictures of Jackson Square. So, it's crazy. I remember as a kid, like a 12-year-old, we made the saddest looking snowman you've ever seen the one time that it snowed, and it was more slush and ice than anything. So this is the biggest snowfall they've had in over 100 and some odd years.
Frosty the drunken snowman.
That's right.
Staggering down not Beale Street, Bourbon Street.
Yeah.
I saw, we got a couple of members from Lake Charles in our club, and they were on the airboats out there riding around on the snow and ice. They got 6-7 inches out there in Lake Charles.
Yeah.
They showed people playing ice hockey, guys on their skates in the quarter
on Canal Street.
Yeah.
On Canal Street. In fact,
cool.
It literally looked like one of those, when they have the big hockey games in like Wrigley Field or Fenway.
Yes.
I swear to you, there was that much ice. You could have put an entire hockey game on the ice on Canal Street.
And you don't hear this very often. Arkansas, the state of Arkansas, saved Louisiana because they don't have any snow plows in Louisiana, at least not in Louisiana. So the RDOT, Arkansas Department of Transportation, sent the troops down
I saw that
to take care of them. But nobody probably had more fun than the folks in New Orleans. Look at
Yep.
that.
You're
That is
exactly
awesome.
right.
Look at the quarter.
Oh, they were the skiers on Bourbon Street. I don't know if y'all saw that.
Oh yeah. That is just awesome. I mean, you can't. Brendan, having as a young boy growing up in Colorado, hates this stuff probably.
Yeah, this is just like a Monday, like where I grew up. This is like how I got to school. This is like, oh, I'm going to the store. Like,
Yeah.
That's right.
And I can imagine just like you got the Super Bowl coming up February 9th.
Mhm.
And you've got all these people down there in that city for conventions and whatever going
Yeah.
on. But the bridges were just completely covered.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's not like I live in the North Pole in Memphis.
In fact, the causeway there's the longest bridge in the world that goes 26 miles across Lake Pontchartrain is still iced. In fact, my buddies normally come in for a big lunch every Friday. We have a big communal table at our lunch club, and they can't make it across. It's still out. They just opened up the airports yesterday, so it's starting to get a little bit back to normal, but that's the thing. People used to joke about us with Snowmageddon here in Atlanta a decade ago. In fact, it even made SNL. It was, funny. But you got to remember, we don't have the snow equipment. Georgia and Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Louisiana, we're not equipped for this. So they laugh at us, but y'all would be having the same problems if you didn't have 50.
Well, that's the thing.
Trucks up in Buffalo, right? And if you guys want to play the trade game, come on down here on a nice July day in New Orleans, and I'll sit your ass out in the sun, and we'll see who's the local and who's not.
If you're not prepped for it, it's just bad.
No.
And that's what I say all the time from being a Colorado and then being in Florida. In Florida, I say, look, it's worse in a lot of ways. The cold is different. There's no humidity, so it's that different kind of cold. So it goes through you, it cuts to your bone. You can't really warm up.
It really does. Wet cold.
And in Colorado, it's a dry cold. It's a wet. It doesn't. It's so you can kind of prep for it. But you grow up in Patagonia. They've got 900 snowplows that hit. Denver clears snow like nobody's business.
Yeah.
And
before you even wake up, they've cleared it.
Yeah, it's nothing to it. And we're not talking about main streets. We're talking about your city streets, your side streets, your residential. It's cleared before you wake up in the morning. So it's just a different. When you're not prepped for this stuff, it's much more difficult to deal with, much like you'd be dealing with a hurricane that you've never done before. It's a lot. So,
But on Tuesday, we did have a post-Christmas miracle. All the damn potholes got filled in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Every pothole, no matter how deep or shallow, it all got filled. For one glorious day, no one lost an axle driving on the streets of New Orleans.
And what makes it even worse in places like Atlanta or Memphis, Birmingham, are the Yankees that have lived up north and live down here and think, oh, it's no big deal. And they cause a lot of the wrecks.
Yeah, because they get out and they don't realize how icy. That's why Snowmageddon, exactly the decade ago when they did the spoof on SNL from Coca-Cola and Escalade. It was a great, by the way, great skit. Back when they were actually funny.
Yeah,
but it was so cool because those of us that I consider myself pretty smart. We were home way before all that shit happened, right?
Yeah.
And it was all the idiots that thought that they could make it back. You could make it to work okay, but then you wasn't getting back. And when what did they all do? They all went to the interstate. I mean, it looked like the old movie from the 70s, used cars out on I-75 and I-85. It was 1,000 cars out there. And they wasn't going anywhere.
Crazy.
And we got too many hills for you to try and get traction to go up or down.
Yeah. Rob, you're muted, bud.
Money is what'll fix things. Like the I-40 and I-55 bridges across the Mississippi River in Memphis are the busiest two bridges in America. So you ought to see they will get those bridges open no matter what. They will try to. But when you get, like 2 weeks ago, we had 9 inches, 10 inches of snow here. It causes issues. And I'm, 4-wheel drive, you can handle snow. Just don't gun it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you got to think about it. Hey, we got something hotter than the cold. That's just SEC basketball race. Will Gunter will join us as soon as he can. He's wrapping up his morning show in Columbia, 107.5 The Game. Frank, football, it's tough right now.
Yeah, I don't want to turn the page yet. Come on, Rob. I mean, my goodness gracious, we got so much shit going on with football. And look, Look, I'll freely admit my LSU Tigers have been drecking basketball, honestly, since my good buddy John Brady left. Honestly, I mean,
He
since our
was on
last
Wednesday
time.
with us. Yeah.
Yeah, I love John. John's a great friend.
Thank you for that.
Yep, you're welcome. And since our trip to the Final Four in 2006, we've just been in the doldrums. And so obviously it's hard when your SEC team is not playing well. But I have to freely admit, I think this might be the best that our conference has ever done in basketball with Auburn and Tennessee and Florida and of course perennial
Alabama.
Kentucky, Alabama.
Ole Miss.
Arkansas is a disappointment.
Yeah.
Is a big disappointment. But for the most part, SEC basketball, I'm not saying it's as healthy as SEC baseball because that and football, in my opinion, are the juggernauts. But SEC basketball right now, we're going to be putting a lot of teams in the tourney. And it's just an interesting and we're getting into the meat of the schedule now. These last 6 weeks of SEC play, you've got enough games under each SEC team's belt, about 5 now, to get a good feel for what you're looking for. In fact, I call this is when the betting, when most people I really start betting, they wait about 4 or 5 days if you're 4 or 5 games if you're smart to figure out what you got and how different it is from the year before. So, so I mean, I'm reluctantly giving up football. It has been such a wacky, crazy year. The fact that the national champion, which I mean, remember when I called you, I was pulling for Texas because that was a call that I made back in August.
Yeah.
But when I talked to you guys, when I was out in Pasadena, which is still bizarre that I was there 3 days before all hell broke loose. Mm-hmm. But I was out in Pasadena and I watched the Ohio State Buckeyes dismantle Oregon to the point where their fans were done. I was sitting in a group of Duck fans. They were done by the end of the first quarter. Howard, I think, had at that point close to 200 and some odd, 220 yards of passing by that point. So Ohio State to win the national championship and yet get beat by your rival on your own home turf. It almost kind of rivals LSU, my Tigers winning in 2007 after losing not once but twice in overtime, once in overtime in Lexington, and then twice to our good buddy Darren McFadden and Felix Jones and that incredible Arkansas team that year. But you almost had that same feeling. Look, don't forget on that selection day, Rob, on noon, I remember I was driving someplace and I was listening on the radio to ESPN, and we didn't know if Ohio State was even going to, be in, even though they were clearly one of the best 12 teams. Yeah. There was such a backlash about that embarrassment against Michigan on their home field that there was even talk that they weren't even going to get in the damn thing. And then, of course, being able to host Tennessee. And by the way, I think that might have been a different animal had that been in Kville as opposed to Columbus. I don't think Tennessee would have won, but I think it would have been a hell of a much closer game. It was just a different. I think being on the road, even though the Vols brought a lot of fans, they showed out. I think that was a little bit difficult for them. But man, when they beat Texas, it was Katie bar to the door.
Well, when Tennessee went up there, I thought Tennessee would win the game 24-14. I completely blew that one. Totally wrong. I misread them. But the Ohio State fans, a lot of them gave up their tickets. Tennessee had 35 or 40,000. I mean, that's insane.
Sure did.
They got like 3,500 tickets. They cracked the code. But that shows you the Ohio State fans were so frustrated having lost to Michigan. They were ready to check out. Yeah. Hey, let's bring in Will.
They were mentally out.
We'll bring in Will Gunner here for a few minutes before I know he's running late. Will, I know you had a bunch going on. We've got about 12 minutes, but I love having you on here, and let's do it again next week for sure. You do a morning show. You were just on for what, 3 hours?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the general temperature among the Carolina fans? Because we're all watching Carolina, and it's like, how are they 0-6? Lamont Paris is a good coach. Last year, they had a great year. Break it down, and we got some news I think Brendan just said we got some breaking news from Buddy Martin. So Brendan, if you want to pop in here with us, we'll break that if you were there, Brendan. Or yeah, Buddy, what do you got?
Good morning, guys. I don't want to interrupt you, but I have on good authority, I can't give you the confirmation from the team, but I heard today something makes me very happy and probably is going to make Gator fans very happy. As soon as I can confirm this, I'm 99.9% sure it's going to happen. There will be a Spurrier on Billy Napier's staff this fall. His name is Steve Jr., Bubba.
Cool.
Which has not been announced yet. I learned that from my sources last night. We'll be able to confirm it today. So Steve Jr., of course, as we all know, coach was his dad at South Carolina, very successful. He's been out in Tulsa, and now he's coming home. And I know Jerry Spurrier is very happy about all those grandbabies.
That's right. Mom's happy.
Hell yeah. Well, that is cool, buddy. Thank you for telling us that from snow-covered.
And a perfect segue with our South Carolina guest here, Mr. Gunner.
Yeah.
Perfect segue.
South Carolina fans will be happy to hear that. They now, I guess, will be a wide receiver coach. South Carolina fans will be like, yeah, good luck with that. See, he's great at developing wide receivers, but I'm going to guess if his efforts into recruiting are the same as they were here, South Carolina fans will go, okay, good. Now we got a chance to recruit against Florida at the wide receiver position. Steve Jr., I spent a lot of time with him. He is an interesting guy, to say the absolute least. I have been with him on the road. Obviously, I've played golf with his father a couple times, and good for him. Glad to have him. Glad to see him. And you're right. The happiest person about that is going to be Jerry. She'll get the whole family back together there, and
as they call him, Bubba.
Together.
Yeah, Bubba's back. And by the way, one of the little window, if I might just say this, I'll get out of here. Well, I'm sorry to intrude on your time. There is a guy in town today from the West Coast who's a defensive coach who's looked for him to be meeting with Billy Napier. We're still waiting to find out about the other shoe dropping on terms of what's going to happen on the defensive side of the ball. So that's all I got, guys.
Just don't come looking for Corey Raymond. Leave him alone.
I think Gator fans will say you can have him.
No, we love Corey, man. He's a hell of a recruiter.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, buddy.
Will's just happy we got off of 0-6 real quick. That was a nice diversion.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I'm running.
They're a
I'm
good
running
team,
a little behind.
Yeah,
I'm running a little behind. We actually had breaking news that has kind of occurred in the last 20. I didn't get to it on my show. Shane Beamer will be approved today. I'm still getting the actual numbers, but will be approved today for a new contract.
Oh, wow.
An extension. For me at South Carolina, I think part of what South Carolina has to do, and this kind of circle back to what you were asking about basketball, South Carolina at times in this league has to show that they are financially willing to play with the big boys. And Shane Beamer will be approved for a new contract today that will give him a raise. He will now make $1.85 million. $8.15
yeah, I was going to say, holy shit, if it's only 1.8, we'll hire him as the damn coordinator.
Yeah, I'm trying to read it. There's a lot
the poverty of it all.
Shane just had a damn heart attack.
Yeah, I like I said, this occurred right after the show, and I'm still
help me, please.
checking details.
Lord, help me.
If that's the case, I can just tell you that Jimmy Sexton ain't his agent.
Yeah, $8 million, $8.15 million with a $100,000 escalator each year. So I'll deal with that here in the coming moments as we get off air. But
I think the Beamers pantry will be stocked for a while. They'll be doing pretty damn good.
God.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Will, tell us this. I mean, South Carolina football got on a roll. Coach Ellis Johnson comes on with us on Mondays, and I love having his take on it about Lenora Sellers. Talk about his deal coming back. Carolina was the hottest team in the country, probably in that last 6 games, and they damn could have been 11-1. I mean that team. They love their coach and they love each other. That's a happy team.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, the bowl game didn't go as planned. I think there's going to be some real interest to see if what occurred in that bowl game offensively with Lenore Sellers was a one-off because you lost Dow Loggins to Appalachian State and Mike Shula took over. And there's a lot of people who have speculated they're not sure if Lenore Sellers was told to run less in that ball game, or it didn't seem like the same offensive game plan, even though Mike Shula had been on staff throughout the year and had been credited a lot for the development of Lenore Sellers. But obviously, yeah, there's a strong energy. A lot of people like what he has done in the transfer portal so far. They really like the recruiting class that was put together there at the end. There are questions about the defensive tackles going into 2025 and replacing some of those defensive players. But there's a lot of energy around here. And by the way, we've got a new athletic director, Jeremiah Donati, is coming in is now started for Ray Tanner, took over. And this is the second big contract you actually see because they just gave Dawn Staley, I think last week, I believe it was last Friday, maybe 2 Fridays ago, basically a $4 million contract to make her the highest paid basketball coach. We've got a huge game against Frank's LSU team. We spent, I'll admit, we just spent 3 hours making fun of Kim Mulkey here on air. Because as you said, the men's team's 0-6, so we got to talk about the women's team. But a big game here at 5:00 today. But it's interesting to me because at 42 years of age, I've never seen South Carolina spend money like this and try and promote themselves as a big time part of the SEC by financially backing their coaches. Dawn Staley, you saw him do it. They did it last year with Lamont Paris after that basketball season he had. Put him in the $4 million range, and now this with Shane Beamer. So there's a lot of energy around here. It's going to be a great scene, 5:00 today on ESPN with undefeated LSU, and this has turned into the women's rivalry game. No Angel Reese today, no Haley Van Lith. Obviously, they're off to different parts of their career. Camila Cardoso, who the last time we saw South Carolina and LSU play, Cardoso shoving people down, and we got a brouhaha. But a good day for that. Should be a lot of fun. Good way to start the weekend with college basketball and then the NFL playoffs and so forth and so on.
It's going to be a sanctioned cat fight is what the hell it's going to be. And if there's some braids and any hairs, there'll be a pulling. Hey, look, I'm going to go call my buddy Kim and tell her, make sure she wears the big fluffy purple and gold boa. I think she's going to have to call Scott Woodward and say, I need more money. I just heard Dawn get a little bit more than I did. So that one-upsmanship's going to be going on. I don't know who her agent is, but I'll guarantee you she's going to be talking to Scott today.
we talked about that this morning. Dawn wants to win this to kind of just say, hey, that half court, that post game handshake. Hey, do you see that new contract I just got? This will be a fun game here. I hate they didn't play it last night. I know you guys have had snow down there, and hopefully everybody's safe down on y'all's part of the world. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be a rocking environment here with LSU and South Carolina.
Yeah, we're lucky. Actually, Baton Rouge Airport freed up to get them up there because they just opened it up late yesterday, from what my friends told me.
Yeah. Well, before you go, and again, you do a show every day of the week. You got to, like you just said, the Carolina fan base has got to be just on fire right now. You brought up this point. Dawn Staley, $4 million for a contract for a women's basketball coach. It's never been done before in history. Not on the women's side.
No, look, to answer to go to your point on the fan base, there's even with the men's team being 0-6 in conference and quite frankly staring down the barrel of a potential 0-18 season. I think they'll pick up some here or there. They absolutely blew that game against Florida on Wednesday night. Had a 14-point lead with 12 minutes to go. Had Auburn 2 weeks ago. Down 3 with a minute and a half to go and couldn't close the deal on them, blew the game against Vanderbilt. But this fan base, you're right, because, again, as you got Franco, and it's a good morning with the connection with South Carolina and LSU, Paul Maneri, we're 3 weeks away from him debuting as the baseball coach.
Yeah.
People are fired
National
up about
championship
that.
coach.
They're people around here are very, very fired up. We spent some time talking about that this morning because South Carolina's history is really with the college baseball scene. And now you bring a national championship guy in, a guy with the respect of Maneri. And so we were talking about that 3 weeks from today. They'll hit the baseball diamond. He's actually got a press conference to preview his team at 12:00 today. So you're right, with football, with baseball around the corner, with women's basketball being number 2 in the nation, everybody's kind of looking at that men's basketball team and like, yeah, we see you over there. We're going to focus on all the positive that's occurring at this university right now. We'll leave you guys alone. Try and get it together here in the next month and a half.
Hey, Will, I would love to make the offer. If you ever want me to come on, I would love to come on, because here's why. There is an incredible connection between South Carolina and LSU, and it goes back all the way to Paul Dietzel. You know, the fact that we traded off home games because each of us were inundated with weather issues. Yep. I mean, there is, the South Carolina band comes in. I guess this was the game around 2012 when LSU had, a lot of the issues. I think it was the Baton Rouge issues when the shootings and everything. South Carolina's band came in. There was an issue, and they played our alma mater. Yeah. And there is an incredible give and take. And in fact, that was the second time they played it, because they played it in Williams-Brice when they were having to hold our home game. They learned all of our songs. So there is a kinship between these two schools. Rivals, we had some great games, even going back to the Gator Bowl of '88, which I remember being at.
Mike Archer.
Yeah. So if you ever want me on, there's a true, really a kinship between these two universities. And it's kind of rare, since y'all were always in the East, we're in the West. But there is a definite natural kinship between the two fan bases and universities.
Obviously, that's a game that's circled football wise. It's in October. I can't remember the date, but South Carolina comes down there, and that's one that certainly, I believe, there's a good chance. You look at South Carolina, you look at LSU schedule, that's going to be a primetime game. It's probably, if South Carolina's got a schedule to get to 5-0, I think it's a 5-0 and then a bye week before they go to Baton Rouge. That's going to be one that I think a lot of people will circle for a defining game in the SEC, with especially, and you could have a Heisman showdown there with Lenoris against Garrett Nussmeier. And after this past season's game up here, that's a very big game in the SEC.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we beat y'all's rival Clemson in the fraudulent Death Valley, then we could come into that game undefeated as well, very easily. Which would be a great rematch to the battle that we had in Williams-Brice. I'm still hungover from a couple cocktails in one of the cockabooses when we were all hanging out there and having a blast. So you're right. Yeah. And look, y'all come on down. If you come down, I always got the gumbo on. The last person I invited for gumbo, Yancey Porter, when Ole Miss came down 3 years ago. He didn't even make it to the RV. He couldn't find the damn thing. I said, damn, I'm always sitting right in front of Mike the Tiger's cage.
Will, we got to get you back on next week. We're up against a hard break, but get you back on 107.5 The Game. How do they follow you on Twitter? And thank you so much for being on with us.
Yeah, again, I apologize. Things got a little kooky and crazy. We got a lot going on here today with the movement of this basketball game, and I've actually got to go help my grandmother real quick. I've had something come up with her. But I want to come back on with Mike, with Frank, too, because I tell you what, you talk about that. I'm making a decision between Mississippi and LSU to take my son to a road game next year, and he'll be 13. And I've said, if we go to LSU, I said, you're either going to go learn a lot of life lessons at LSU and see some wild stuff, or we're going to go to Oxford. We'll get to that. But, yeah, always, again, I apologize. Twitter, at Will, W-I-L. I wish I'd have grown up sticking with the 1L in Will. I think that's a lot cooler than what I've done. But W-I-L, Gunter. And, again, you can check us. We're back and rolling 6 to 9 Eastern time. You can go to our app, 1075 The Game app on your app store. It's 1075 The Game, and download it and listen to us, whether you're in Baton Rouge or Memphis or Fayetteville or Knoxville, wherever. We obviously cover a lot of South Carolina, but we cover a lot of SEC ball and make fun of we're a morning show, so we're going to make fun of people and cut up and try and make you smile and laugh every day. And definitely we'll text me. We'll get it scheduled for next week. Hopefully it'll calm down just a little. Come next week.
right, will do. Will, thank you
I
so
can
much.
I can assure you, Baton Rouge is the choice. Trust
Yeah.
me. You'll eat
Let
but
me-
your kid might hear some things for 3 hours that he don't want to hear.
Oh yeah, it'll be wild. Let's bring in a special guest. This is really Chuck Leavell. Chuck, thank you so much for taking time to join us. I was sitting up in Hardy. We do a trip every year. A couple of them. I do a bunch on the Spring River in Hardy, Arkansas, with Wendy Level, and I'm like, "Are you related to Chuck Leavell?" I saw you on Paul Feinbaum on Wednesday, and this was Saturday, August 24th. And Wendy, I was canoeing him. He was canoeing, smoking a few cigs and drinking a road soda, catching a bunch of rainbow trout. We had about 14 of us in the group. He said he's my first cousin. And I said, I would love to have him on the show. And thank you so much for joining us. I know back in late September, you had the hurricane. I hope everything's gotten better. But I watched the documentary about your career. And that's all I'm going to say is we live in Memphis. I love music. We watch on YouTube at night. The more we drink, the more we watch old classics. We watched The Band, The Last Waltz the other night. We watched you that comfortably. Johnny Haygood and Wendy Level worked together in Montgomery, showed me the video of you at Pompeii in 2016 with the Pink Floyd. My kids are mid-20s and on. They all love, this is what we love. So talk about your career and your love. I know you're an Alabama fan and you know Coach Saban, so have at it. Welcome aboard.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I hope everybody's doing well. I've just been very, very fortunate in my career. I guess one of the early breaks was working with the Allman Brothers Band back in 1972. Joined the band. We did the Brothers and Sisters record. Also at that time, I played on Greg Allman's first solo record, Laid Back. And, one thing has led to another. I've just been very fortunate working with the Rolling Stones now for 43 years. Worked with Eric Clapton on the Unplugged record, worked with Eric for 2 years. George Harrison's last tour of Japan, very special. So, I don't want to go on and on about.
You've had a
all that
Walter
mess.
Mitty life. You've had a Walter Mitty life. You really have. That's incredible.
Well, you want to know the way it works?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I work cheap. That's the way it works.
Hey, man, it's a life experience. You'd pay to be doing all this shit, wouldn't you? You'd pay to be doing it.
Well, and listen, I got to give kudos to my first cousin, Wendy. He's such a great guy. And, Wendy actually taught me how to play guitar when I was very young. He was a couple of years older than me. And our families would hang out. His family lived in Montgomery. Mine lived in Tuscaloosa. And our dads were brothers.
Yeah.
But I thank the world of my cousin. He's just a great guy. So thanks for bringing him up.
Oh, he is he can sing. Johnny Haygood and him. Johnny can do Johnny Cash, and Wendy is a musician. I know he played in a band, for a long time. But I think what Paul Feinbaum was on the show last Friday, and my partner on the show, she's like, I'd love to see you get Paul Feinbaum and Chuck Leavell on together and Pat McAfee. I said that would be crazy, but talk about. I know you love football and you follow Alabama, but also your love of the outdoors. In Macon, Georgia, that area, you're a tree farmer is what you like to talk about it. That's forestry is a big deal. Talk about it.
Well, it's very simple if you just look at all the things that trees and forests give us and that they do for us, materials to make books, magazines, newspapers, packaging products, all those boxes we get from Amazon, everybody loves to receive, those are trees.
Charmin.
Yeah, absolutely. But materials to build our houses, homes, schools, churches, et cetera, offices, whatnot, clean air, clean water, the home for all manner of wildlife. And I don't think there's any more important natural resource than we have than trees and forests. And I'm very proud to be a forest landowner and to engage in managing our forests and also being an advocate for forestry You may or may not know I have a television program called America's Forests that runs on PBS and that is also available on Amazon Prime. It's just called America's Forests, and so we enjoy bringing to the public. You know, I've always said that the best way to engage with the general public concerning any issue to do with forestry would be through a visual television program where you can take people to a sawmill, you can take people to the outdoors, and you know, discuss these subjects and let them have firsthand knowledge of what it's all about.
Take an atheist out and let him look at a tall southern pine and he'll change his mind.
That's right. Chuck, what in your career, I listen to music a lot, all the time. We just don't have the bands and the people like you. It seemed like everything that you got, you had to earn. And I noticed back in the 80s, we all remember when MTV went unplugged. You found out who was swimming naked. You know, you found out who could play and couldn't play. Talk about that. Because I am a music junkie. My youngest son is 24, and Max's favorite memories are hanging out with our British friend, listening to rock and roll till 3 in the morning by the fire pit. That's just what we love. And so you are that.
Well, as I said, you know, just so fortunate to work with all these different. I think most musicians would say, "Hey, isn't it great to have success with one artist or one band?" But really, the joy of my career has been working with all these diversified and very, very talented musicians and artists. It's, you know, John Mayer's a good friend. Worked on 2 records with John. You mentioned David Gilmour and the Pompeii. We did a beautiful tour in 2016 that you mentioned with him. But you know, also to maintain a solo career and have a little fun on my own and putting a band together from time to time to fill in those gaps. But you know, I love it when the phone rings and it's Mick Jagger on the other end of the line saying, "Let's go tour." You know, Keith Richards. Keith is he was gracious. They were both very gracious to make appearances in the documentary.
Yeah.
Chuck, I grew up in Colorado, right next to Red Rocks. Probably 15-minute drive there. Red Rocks Amphitheater means the world to me. It's how I started in the business, pushing cases and up those steps because I was the only one that could get up the steps because I was the local. So you know what it's like around Red Rocks. I've seen you play it there. I've been a big fan of your career my whole life. Huge Pink Floyd person, huge Allman Brothers. Can you tell me, because I've probably seen 1,000 shows at Red Rocks. Can you tell me, do you have a memorable moment of when you played there? Is there a time? Because everyone always talks about a special something that happened at their moment in Red Rocks. Did you have anything like that at Red Rocks, or do you recall anything of that nature?
Well, yeah. You know, my good friends that hold the record for the most sold out shows in Red Rocks, Widespread Panic.
Yeah.
So
here in Atlanta.
Yes, sir. And I've sat in with Widespread out there at Red Rocks. And as a matter of fact, on the last tour that we did, which was just last year with the Rolling Stones, Widespread opened for us in Colorado.
Wow.
And they were doing their Red Rocks show at the time. So, you know, they were kind enough to come in a day early and open up for us. And they did a beautiful job. I mean, if you know Widespread, it's not an easy thing for those guys to open up for somebody because their shows last like 4 hours, you know. So they had to cut it down to
just one song
minutes.
lasts 4 hours.
Exactly. But they're
JB going, you know.
Oh, fantastic. And as you probably know, Jimmy Herring had to they had to shut down for a while because Jimmy had an issue with throat cancer, but from what I understand, he's all fixed up now. Everything's cool, and they're going to regroup and start playing pretty soon. I think next month.
Oh, that's great.
I got another question before we go to Frank. I saw a band in Memphis, December 6th at the FedEx Forum. My son Wilson and his friend Robert Weaver wanted to go. Billy Strings.
Oh, man.
We were right up on the stage. That you got your money's worth. Talk about that. That's I compared them to the Dead, the Panic, and you've forgotten more than I know. Your thoughts on them? Yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean, thank heavens there's a Billy Strings out there. I mean, this guy is a phenom. You know, he's just absolutely incredibly talented, and to do what he's doing to bring attention to the art of bluegrass music. But as we know, he crosses over, you know, into rock and roll. And but wow, his technique on the guitar is just absolutely amazing. The vocal harmonies that he employs on, you know, it just I thank heavens he's out there, man, because the guy's amazing.
Yeah.
How
Frank,
good is John Mayer?
John is so special. You know, John went to the Berklee School of Music early on in his career, and you know he was already a good guitar player, but he got better at Berklee. And then during that process, John realized, okay, I'm getting the guitar thing down, but now I've got to learn how to write songs. I got to learn how to do both. And so he certainly learned how to do that. And I think he surprised a lot of people. You know, here's a guy that had a song like "Your Body's a Wonderland," and he winds up playing with Dead and Company.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of people saying, "What? What?" You know.
Close your eyes. It's Stevie Ray on stage. I can't
Well,
even tell. It's crazy.
well, he's just absolutely he's such a brilliant guitarist and a great guy, by the way. I don't know if you've heard his Sirius XM show, Life with John Mayer. Fantastic radio program.
Really good.
Got to see him in person as a friend when we were rehearsing in L.A. We were both in the same compound. The Stones were rehearsing, and he was, you know, just he's constantly working on things, you know. So we had a great sit down and you know, rekindled our friendship. He's a wonderful man, and boy, did he revive Dead and Company.
Yeah. Frank. Yeah.
Chuck, this is an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I have got to tell you, you have lived one hell of a musical life. And with someone of your talents, and they're widespread, I mean, you've played with a lot of different groups, a lot of different styles. Obviously, you had to have those mentors or those people that you idolized growing up and what their musical style was. Waylon, Willie, Merle, Flats and Scruggs, maybe even going back to Fats Domino, as widespread as you are and on the piano. What were the pioneers, the icons that you looked up to when you were a young man growing up and having this love for music?
Well, you know, when I was coming up, we had our first band called the Misfits in Tuscaloosa, and I was so fortunate, I think, to be brought up in the South because you had the influence of country music, you had the influence of gospel music on Sunday mornings. There
Mahalia Jackson, yep,
yeah, absolutely, black gospel music, but also white gospel music.
Yeah,
yep.
And then you know, you had the soul and rhythm and blues influences, Wilson Pickett, Sam and Dave, and Aretha Franklin, and all that. And of course, the Muscle Shoals Swampers that played on so many of those records. Barry Beckett was a hero. Barry was the keyboard player that played on most all of that stuff.
Mississippi Blues.
Yeah, and Clayton Ivey. These are not household names, but brilliant players. Clayton Ivey's still with us, and he's a great player from that area. And but then, you know, as we got older and we started experimenting more, you know, British Invasion, Beatles, Stones, Dave Clark 5, Zombies, all of that came into play. But
Animals.
It was really Leon Russell that blew my mind. That really, as a keyboard player, as a piano player, and as an arranger, and as a songwriter. So I was a big Leon fan. But other genres that I like listening to, Chick Corea, God rest his soul, brilliant. Herbie Hancock still with us, amazing. Keith Jarrett, one of the most incredible, you know, child prodigies and brilliant player. Unfortunately, Keith has had a stroke, and I think he lost some use of his left hand. So, but those names mean a lot to me. But you know, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, yeah, you got to include
the
all
killer,
those
man.
guys.
The killer on the keyboard was something else. I'm from New Orleans, so we have obviously a long litany of great musicians. And of course, one of our native sons, who we just love to death, big Saints fan, is Jimmy Buffett. And of course, obviously we lost him a couple of years ago. Did you ever do anything with Jimmy over the years or with Mac McAnally?
With Jimmy, yes, we became friends. You know, he was fans of the Allman Brothers and of the
Sure.
Stones. And when the Stones played Havana some years back, we did this incredible show. It was a free show, of course, and this was in the era of Obama. Obama had just gone to Cuba and was trying to open up
Remember that?
relationships,
Yeah.
and we went there a week after that and played. And so I'm walking around during the sound check, and there's Buffett. And I said, man, what are you doing here? You know, he said, well, I come to Cuba. I love it. And I'm here as a journalist. I'm here to give a report on the Rolling Stones play. I said, well, I'll be damned. Come on. I love that guy. He was so special.
And of course,
Frank,
he and McCartney were best of friends for
Yeah.
years and years and years. Best
I
friends.
got to ask you something. We worked at Duncan Williams investment banking firm on the trading floor for 12 years with a guy named J.M. Van Eaton, was a drummer, and he was a sessions drummer. And when he retired at age 82, he said, now I'm going to start my real career and start traveling. He would go to Europe and travel. I love people like that. And I lived about a half mile down the street growing up from Charlie Rich. I just love music.
Yeah, man.
Close us
Silver
out.
Fox, baby.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And I know you got to
Behind
go.
closed doors.
And thank you so much for sharing your time with us, Chuck. And I'd love to do this again. Just close us out by saying your thoughts on the future of music in America, because please don't ever retire. I know how much you love your wife. I hear that, and she in my prayers every day, because Wendy tells me, and you are a great man. What you do for so many people, you are so kind. But close us out with some optimistic message, and we'll do it again.
Well, you mentioned Billy Strings. To hear talent like that out working at the present time is fantastic. Our friends Derek Trucks and Susan Tedeschi, great band, Tedeschi Trucks Band.
Yeah.
And we'll see what my British brethren come up with. We're waiting to hear if they might want to tour this year.
Wow.
We had a great tour last year, as you know. And
it was incredible.
I just love playing with those guys. It's so fun.
You guys are getting younger. Y'all ain't getting older. How in the hell do they do that? It's crazy.
You are.
Well, that's
right. And God bless Charlie, because I'll tell you, it was always awesome when y'all would come and play in the Superdome. Charlie Watts would always sneak off and go find a little jazz place, and nobody knew he was there. And if you happened to be one of the lucky people, or if you were lucky enough to be on a text thread when he was in, Snug Harbor or the Black Cat or somewhere playing jazz on his, just quietly, not assuming. And it was normally a couple of days before y'all would perform. That was just so special. And New Orleanians just love the fact that he would just casually go in and pick up the sticks and just sit there. And by the way, he was a huge jazz aficionado. He was fantastic.
He was all about jazz, man. I mean, that's what made, that's one of the things that made the Stones so unique was, a jazz drummer in a rock and roll band.
Oh no, Chuck, the more you talk, the more you make me feel good about the future of music. But what an honor.
Well,
man.
let me. I know we're running out of time, but let me just say this too.
So long.
Well, keep you as long as you want.
It's good, but of course we miss Charlie. He was Charlie Watts. There was only one. They broke the mold. But I have to mention my good friend and Steve Jordan, who's doing a fabulous job playing with the Rolling Stones now. And Steve is the right choice. He had Charlie's blessing, by the way. Mm-hmm. And so I got to mention Steve. He's such a wonderful musician. So we're happy to have him. All right, guys, y'all take care. Roll Tide.
Oh, go Tigers. Go Tigers, baby. Go Tigers.
We'll have to have you back, Chuck. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. What an honor.
Chuck.
Hey, that was
outstanding. Holy mackerel, shit. We need to have him on every week. Tell Doug he's in deep trouble. He's lost his spot.
God, man. He is one of those guys that it's just when you're around people and Ken's down there in Austin, you've rubbed elbows with Willie Nelson. I mean, it's cool. You'll love it. Let me say something about Winter Timber Outdoors, folks. They're in Athens, Alabama, open every day of the week. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They have a staff of competent people that will get you with the right gear. They're a huge Sitka dealer. They've got everything for your food plots, your deer stands, everything that you want for hunting and the outdoor life. They're broadcasting and they're putting it out there. They're growing in the footprint that is the Southeastern Conference. They broke ground in mid-November on a new store in Auburn. They're looking at Athens, Georgia, Fayetteville, Arkansas. Hey, stay tuned. Watch Winter Timber Outdoors grow. They have all the guns, the knives, the gear, the ammo, Migra duck loads, the best I've ever used. Winter Timber Outdoors, and take a picture of that QR code. Rete Masimara GPS BOGO. Buy one, get one free. Winter Timber, proud to have them as a sponsor. And Ken Capps, you are broadcasting live from the 7-Eleven. Get me a Slurpee if you can. Talking to, yeah, there you go. And the old trading cuss, but Ken, let's get your thoughts here. And Brad Bellamy will be on in a few minutes from Landers Ford about this college football season. And Buddy Martin, we had breaking news earlier in the show about Steve Spurrier Jr. is looking to be heading back to Gainesville to coach on the staff at Florida. And I'm not sure who else they're bringing in there, but they're trying to get the band back together. Ken, I love the scarf. And you didn't get any snow in Austin, Dallas, did you?
No, didn't get a drop this time, but boy, I was watching you down there, Frank, and watching all the snow
Crazy.
down there, and then I attended the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Awards on Wednesday, which honors the best college football player that played his high school ball in Texas. Ashton Genty from Boise State won.
Yeah, good for him.
So high school. Well, he couldn't get here to Tyler because he was in New Orleans and he was snowed in.
Oh,
so,
wow. Oh, my goodness.
He sent us a really nice video. But, man, I just couldn't believe Houston and New Orleans and all up and down the Gulf. Our old stomping grounds, Orange Beach down there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Snow went right up to the water. Crazy.
I know.
Hey, look, you changed it from the damn Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, and one day later, the whole damn thing freezes over.
That's right. That's right. That just tells you the power right there.
Right.
Ken, we had a discussion late last night. I'm over here at the farm, at the cherry farm right now, right outside of Memphis. Somebody brought it up that Quinn Ewers has been offered, I believe, $8 million to go somewhere. I don't know where, but this is crazy because if you look at what some of these NFL guys are making in their first 3 years on those rookie contracts, it pays to stay in college.
Yes.
What's going on with Quinn Ewers?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, as far as everybody knows, he has said it multiple times that he is going to the pros. Now, I don't know where he's going to get picked as far as, I think he's a third rounder at best right now. But he says he's going to the pros. And so we'll take him at his word. I will tell you this. He is gone from Texas. I mean, the Arch Manning era is live and well. And I mean, it's only 4 days from the national championship game. And people are already talking about, Arch starting his first game is going to be at Ohio State on August the 30th.
Yeah.
He's already in the Heisman race. So Arch Manning is the dude right now.
I got a question for you, though, Ken. Are Texas fans looking back wistfully more, or are they looking more forward with confidence?
I think they're looking forward with confidence. I really, really do. I mean, obviously, the Ohio State game for Texas was, what could have been, and looking at how everything played out. I mean, just like all of us said. I mean, I think we all picked Ohio State, and I said that the winner of the Texas-Ohio State game would beat Notre Dame. I think if Texas would have beaten Ohio State, which they certainly could have, they would have beaten Notre Dame. Yeah. So looking back at it, I mean, Texas did have a national championship, 2 or 3 plays away, but that's the way football goes. And so now, I mean, it's got a lot of replacement to do, especially on the defense. 7 or 8 guys are gone. A couple of guys are coming back. Trey Moore, the leading tackler and sacker for Texas this year, and Michael Taff, the great kid from Austin Westlake who went from walk-on to All-American. They're coming back, but a lot of holes to replace. But Texas fans, I think, are very optimistic, and they, the whole thing about, we've said it several times on this show all season. The 3 words that Texas fans never want to hear is Texas is back. That's like the kiss of death.
Or it's they're back. That's
right.
That's what we hear a lot. Hey, let's bring in
the reference from the Sugar Bowl game is, I think, what you're referencing, correct, Ken?
Or when they
beating Georgia.
Yeah.
Or when they beat Oklahoma. Let's bring in Brad Bellamy from LandersFordMemphis.com into the show with us right now. What a show today. Hearing from Chuck Leavell was about as cool as the New Orleans weather right now. That was awesome. And I asked him about a band that I saw February 6th at the FedEx Forum, Billy Strings, and he went, oh, awesome. So that was a cool band. I've got on the T-shirt. I might want a shameless plug here, Billy Strings. My son, Wilson, got me hooked on it. I went to the concert December 6th, which is my wife Mildred's birthday. Not Mildred, Audrey. But and they played for at least 3 hours. They are a combination of the Dead and the Panic and whatever else you want to throw in there. But wow, he got to be famous because he played 24 hours straight. I don't know what he was on, but he was on to something. Brad, let's talk real quick about what's happening out at Landers Ford. Drove by there yesterday, got to be over there again today. It's a big lot. I get a lot of people, they say, damn, Brown, I didn't know that. And when they go there, the service and everything you provide, you know it better than anybody.
Hey, thanks, Rob. Good morning, guys. Good morning, Frank. Good morning, Ken.
Good morning, Brad.
Crazy weather down there, down south, especially down in New Orleans. NADA is actually this week in New Orleans. They flip-flop between Vegas and New Orleans, and so
bring your snowshoes.
Have been struggling to get there. Ford folks trying to get there for corporate stuff, and it's been a struggle. So just insane. Guys, strong close here to the month of January. They just had the Ford Power Promise go across the screen. Just a reminder, we talked about it a couple of times, but it's a great time to buy an electric vehicle. We got great incentives with 0 for 72, but also with that Ford Power Promise, it includes a level 2 charger that can get standard installation at your house included with the purchase of that vehicle or a lease. So great program there. Also, strong incentives on Bronco, F-150 up to over $10,000 off. Expedition, $14,000 to $15,000 off, and just trying to clear out some more inventory, guys, and close out the month of January strong. So appreciate y'all's support and appreciate the plugs, Rob. Love taking care of you and all your folks that we get off the SEC Sideline show. So just a reminder too, anybody that mentions the show coming in, you get an extra $500 off of whatever our great prices are.
And Brad, I was just going to say, as a fellow business owner, we're starting to see it loosen up a little bit in real estate here in the Atlanta area. I think we're on our track for a really good 4 years. I feel like the pendulum has swung, and I think all of our businesses are going to really, really reap the benefits over the next 4 years. I really do.
Yeah. I completely agree. I think, and there's a lot of positive momentum and hope going on too, guys. So,
and I tell you, Brad, I want to say something too about Christian Brothers High School. My son-in-law is going to be working out there doing all the social media and working on all that. 15,000 CBHS alumni. They're not all living, but there's a lot of them that are. And you all have endeared yourselves. Landers Field at Tom Nick Stadium. I talked to Brooks yesterday about the Landers sponsoring this show, and he said, don't worry, I'm going to be spreading the gospel of Landers in purple and gold. So just thank you 1,000 times over. Folks, if you're listening, this is a dealership that invests in the area where they do their business, and they will also deliver to you anywhere, LandersFordMemphis.com. And Brad, you love football, We got Ken Capps on here talking about Texas in this season. I mentioned to you yesterday, and Ken, get your take on it, and then I know we all want to bounce around the numbers on the national championship game Monday, down 3 million from a year ago. What do you think caused that? We had two big brands. Kirk Herbstreit said, we don't have to worry about these little SEC markets. We got Notre Dame and Ohio State.
Yeah.
Go get another
Well,
dog, Kurt.
What was in Alabama? Okay, that was one thing. People love to watch Alabama. What was missing was a school like Texas. Okay, I have to throw that plug in there. People love to watch Texas. I mean, excuse me, these are big brands too. And so I think, it was I think that was part of it. And I think everybody kind of thought, even though there was a lot of talk about, everybody's going to be a Catholic this week and everything, I think there was a lot of feeling out there that Ohio State was going to take this game and it wasn't going to be much of a game. That's kind of where I see it.
Yeah. The interesting thing is trying to compare it to last year's numbers, because a lot of the same outcomes were the same this year as last year, right? You had Michigan versus Washington. Alabama and Texas had both got knocked out. Because, I was talking to Rob about this yesterday. One of my theories is when your team gets beat and you had hopes that they were going to make it to the end, you don't want to watch the end.
No.
Like, you're done, right? Like,
that is a great point.
Is one of those things where, once Memphis got knocked out, when I thought they were going to have a good season, like, I don't want to watch basketball anymore. And I think the same thing happened. But here's the other factor. Two of the probably most hated teams in the country are Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Yeah.
They have a lot of fan base, but they have a lot of people that don't like them either. And so people might have just tuned off because, like, hey, I don't like these guys. I don't want to see either one of them win. The best outcome is the referees somehow make it to where it's a stalemate. So that could have played into it. But, it's odd to me, other than just, general fatigue. Hey, I've watched 7 playoff games already. Do I want to watch one last playoff game? So, there could be a couple of different outcomes or different scenarios that are going on. But, I do think it's odd that if it would have been an SEC team last year, I feel like there'd have been a little bit more case for the argument that's been made, that I've heard people make. But I'm thinking the anti-Ohio State Notre Dame might be the bigger factor.
And Brad, just for the record, Ohio State and Notre Dame are only the second and third most hated teams here in the Duffy household. Just letting you know.
Roll Tide.
And by the way, did y'all catch that Saban comment about him missing his first girlfriend?
No, I didn't. What did he say? I missed that one.
Oh, he said the biggest mistake of his life was leaving LSU. I'm gonna send it to you. I'm gonna send you a link. Not that, by the way, not that it helps much.
Yeah. Ken, you had something I wanted you to remind you about. Your 5 questions for SEC football in 2025.
Lord, we're already on 2025. All right, let's go, baby. Yeah. Everybody's got a shot.
Yeah, time to move on.
And it's over, man. Forget about it. It's over. Okay, you won. Okay. Now we move on. Okay. I thought about this. I always love to get really, really early on things. And so, and Frank, you're gonna love part of this. So just get ready.
Okay. I'll take everything I can get.
For the locals here, and I say locals, all 20 million people here in the great state of Texas, number one, for everybody's going to be asking, can Arch Manning come right out of the chute, start his first game as the man, and beat Ohio State on August the 30th? Okay, that's question number one. Number two, can Texas get over its Georgia hump after losing both games to Georgia this past year and now having to play Georgia in Athens this coming year? Okay, so that's number two.
And there is precedent for that, the Georgia trying to get over the Alabama hump. So there is precedent out there for that.
Okay, that's question 2A. Number three, who's in the SEC coach's hot seat? I will give you that it's your boy over there, Brian Kelly.
It is.
And I think it's Hugh Freeze at Auburn. Sorry, Rob, but I think he's on the hot seat.
Oh, I agree with you.
And then last, the age-old question, and I wish Mr. Bellamy was still here because he would love it too. Is Bama going to be back? Is Bama going to be back?
He's here.
Okay, is Bama going to be back? That's question number 5. So those are my way too early questions for the SEC in 2025.
What is your definition of back? In the Alabama question, what would your definition of the word back be?
Brad Bellamy.
Back right on the cusp of the SEC championship game, right on the cusp, if not going to the playoffs. I mean, this was a big year for Alabama to be in neither one of those things. And boy, I've heard from my Alabama fans, they have not been happy, and they've been gnashing their teeth all season about it. And so it's back at the top where they expect to be every year.
One dribble snap and an ass dive against getting in against Michigan to be back in the game. That's what you're talking about.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, I would say you're one of those questions about coaches on the hot seat. It's not a love seat. It's probably a sectional. I mean, I think that there's a lot more guys that are on the hot seat. I mean, I agree with the two you mentioned, but Arkansas, I think their head coach is on the hot seat. Mississippi State, if they have another season like this one where they just weren't competitive at all, I think you have to see some progress and growth and I think DeBoer, if Alabama doesn't make the playoff, I think that seat's going to be super hot. I mean, I feel like the expectations of whoever is going to come into the program and not to make the playoff is one thing, but to not make the playoff in the way they did it this year, if you have that repeat next year where they beat a couple of the teams they should, that the harder teams, but then they lose to the Vandies, lose. Yeah. I mean, you lose to Vanderbilt at home next year. I mean, good luck. Frank?
And I have firsthand knowledge of this. It's exacerbated by the fact that the greatest of all time ain't walking back into the door. That's really the issue. If DeBoer was in a vacuum and he came in after Mike Shula, he'd have 2 more years.
Yeah.
He don't have that opportunity. What do they always say? Yeah. Never work with children or animals or follow the greatest of all time. And that's Correct. What the Cats got to do. And you're exactly right, Brad. If they lose another stupid game or two where they should not be losing, or hang up like a South Florida from like a couple of years before, barely win, you're damn right DeBoer's going to be on a hot seat. And the one thing that Alabama has been able to learn after Nick Saban is they're not going to take mediocrity lightly. They ate Mike DeBose, Mike Shula, and Mike, whatever the hell is the guy that was at Price at the strip club. They ate mediocrity for too damn long. I sat there in Bryant-Denny Stadium and watched us beat the shit out of them for 42-0. They're never taking that crap again. DeBoer will be gone so quickly it'll make his head spin. Him and Kelly will be eating chowder up in Boston.
Yeah, does LSU have a non-conference game to lose at the start of the year like they have the last
Clemson? Couple? We always do. We always got one coming up. I think that'll be 5 in a row if we cough that one up. But I think we got a good shot at that one.
That to me is almost, man, it's almost as important as any of these other games for Brian Kelly, because if they don't win that game and he continues to lose the non-conference game to start their season off on the bad run, especially. I feel like what's going to happen, one of the lessons learned, I think, this year is these non-conference games where we do get to see the power teams go against the power teams, I believe are going to matter more for who makes the playoff next year.
No doubt.
I don't think that they came into play as much and they counted the losses more than the wins. But I think, man, the Texas-Ohio State team that wins, if they have 3 losses, they're probably going to they have a great chance of making the playoff, depending on who the losses are and how they cycle out. So when you have these head-to-head power, SEC Big Ten matchups, that winner's got a leg up that I think is going to probably enhance the conference and help the argument that wasn't as strong. I mean, Notre Dame, if they don't win against A&M, they're not in the playoff.
Yeah. But if we only lose to Alabama, even though we got our ass beat, and we lose to Texas A&M in College Station, if we don't have that loss against USC, we actually are in the conversation. That first game is pivotal in this playoff setting, unless you run the table.
All right, we're going to wrap it up here. Yeah,
I was going to say one of the greatest games I've ever been in person live was the Texas-Ohio State game back, Vince Young's run in Columbus, where they came back and won that game with a Vince Young scramble. And I think that's a great way to start the year this next year.
Arch Manning, get you some.
Ken?
I was going to say, Brad, we were in the stands together. I was up there too, and August 31st is my birthday. So we're already planning. We're already looking at the Columbus flights to go up there on August the 30th. Can't miss that game. Win or lose, we got to go see it. And, I was FOMO last year. My daughter had to teach me what that meant, fear of missing out. I was really FOMO, but I didn't go to the Texas-Michigan game because I was working on other things with football writers. But, man, I'm sorry I missed that game this year. So I'm not going to let it happen twice. I'm going to the hype.
You got to go to the shoe. That's a bucket list place.
Yeah. Guys, look, we're going to wrap it up here. What an awesome show. Man, these FOMO, fear of missing out. You got to get these acronyms down because it took me a while to figure out what texting was. And wait till I asked my dad, how many gigabytes of DRAM does your computer have? He goes, boy, speak English to me. I don't. Hey, look, guys, let me say something, man. We'll be back on Monday morning, but I like what Brad said on that take on Alabama. Frank, tons of great takes. Same thing here, Ken. Pressing questions, Arch Manning. It's basketball season, guys. We'll cover it a lot, but football is always going to be at the head of the table. That's just life in the Southeastern Conference. Look behind me. See that map? There we go. I look like the weatherman. A huge cold front coming in from the Pacific Northwest, and it's going to wake up the SEC. But, folks, I'm going to make a prediction here. We double dog dare the SEC schools. We cannot take a third year in a row of not being at the big boy table. We're sitting at the kids' table right now. We're eating beans and weenies. I don't like it, and I know y'all don't. So you know what you need to do? Crank it up, get out to Landers, get you a four-wheel drive. You can handle anything. And I'm going to be going out to Hewlett and Dunn today on the square in Collierville. I was in there yesterday, guys. Valentine's is coming up. And Brad, for your wife, any of y'all, they've got these fringe cowboy boots that Dingo makes that are hot, man. I mean, the ladies will love them. And they've also got these awesome STS and Schaefer Outdoors fringe jackets. Man, Calamity Jane or whatever they call it, Beth Dutton from Yellowstone, she would wear something like this. They got it all at HewlettandDunn.com on the square in Collierville. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
And since we're talking blue, I can tell you from my memory of high school, those Broncos have a really good back seat.
Yeah.
I hope they still have it.
Hey, Brad, you know what would be cool is if Ford decided to go retro, because back in the old days, and Brad, you're probably too young to remember this, we would have to get out and adjust the lug nuts on the wheel to make her go four-wheel drive. And then people started getting
there was some lug nut adjusting going on.
Yeah, damn right there was. But the Ford Bronco is the coolest. I think that is the most badass vehicle that I've seen on the road. I'm looking at one right now out the window that Michael Jordan just bought from Landers, and they're just awesome. There's others that try, but they'll never be the Bronco.
OJ was the second. OJ was the second best running a Bronco.
Hey, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We're the most blessed people in the history of the world. Make great things happen, people. And we got the best executive producer, Brendan Martin. 2025, guys. We're building on what we did in 2024. Check out all of our sponsors, www.sidelines.live. Share the show. Have a great weekend, everybody. We are.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal and the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.